Lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's get to all the exciting pro wrestling action and bring on the host. Here is Mark Hoke.
Good morning, Las Vegas. What's going on, everybody? And I am faking it. I just want to make that very clear right now. I'm going to hang in there for 2 hours and be as peppy as humanly possible. But thanks for joining us. It is the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment on the Mark Hoke Show. Very happy to have you join us as we get ready to say goodbye to an icon in pro wrestling. We'll talk more about that in a second. But, of course, I'm going to bring the guy in who is bailing me out today and is going to try and keep my throat from exploding. He is the president of wrestling, and he's going to get my vote for president today, period. Phil Stamper joining us here in Pro Wrestling Revolver and so much more. What's going on, my friend?
Thank you for having me today. I hope you're doing. I'm so sorry to hear that you're not doing that well, but I'm glad that I can be here.
I'm hanging in there. It's been interesting. Very interesting week.
I'll tell you always a good descriptor.
Yeah, just, nobody wants to hear about your problems. So, especially when some amazing things are happening today, and I couldn't be more excited about this incredible event that's going to be going on in Greensboro. I wish I was there. I just wish I'd tried to book my flight a little sooner, or else I would have been there. But of course, AEW Revolution is today. Oh, and Phil, after all these years, we say goodbye to Sting and an unbelievable career. It's still amazing to me that at 64 years old, that this guy is performing at such an incredible level. And I never thought we'd see him in the ring when he made that return to AEW. And I don't think he really did either. I mean, I think a lot of people just expected he was just going to be hanging around and, popping up and, maybe whack somebody with a baseball bat every once in a while. But, he's been doing all these crazy spots. And, I had Darby Allin on the show a few weeks ago when they were in town for AEW Collision. And Darby insisted, nope, all this stuff that they're doing, that's his idea, man. And he wants to do it. I can't talk him out of it. And he has just been taking bump after bump. And I can only imagine what's in store tonight at AEW Revolution with him and Darby Allin taking on the Bucks. But Phil, just your thoughts about Sting and his career and, what he means to you in the industry.
I mean, first, who's going to say no to Sting?
Exactly.
We tried to talk about. No, you didn't. You were like, yeah, oh, Sting, yes, sir, yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
But Sting, when I got into wrestling, Sting was one of the first people in wrestling that I was like, oh wow, this is cool. I really like Sting as a kid, and it's weird, and I've had that opportunity to be on an event with him before, and just he has sort of this enthusiasm, this energy that radiates off him, but yet still seems to remain so humble by just being a part of wrestling himself. And that makes him a personality that I'm like, wow, this is really cool to interact with him, to be with him, and to see him at AEW continuing to do what he does is so exciting. And I'm sad to see him go, but it's time for him to enjoy the rest of his life. And
right.
I have a feeling this isn't the end of what we're going to see of Sting. This will just be the end of one chapter of this version of Sting that we're going to see.
Yeah. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember his debuts when, he actually started out, a little in California and then the CWA, and then moved over into the UWF with Bill Watts. When he was teaming with Rick Steiner and of course Eddie Gilbert and those guys, and and of course also with Jim Helmwig, the Ultimate Warrior, when they were the Blade Runners. And I remember seeing those guys and I was like, wow, they're pretty cool. This is an interesting team. And then as time went on, I was watching him kind of evolve out of the. It's funny that people said, "Oh, he was never a bad guy." I'm like, "Oh yeah, he was. He was for a little while there. And as he evolved into the California beach dude and was just that happy-go-lucky guy, I just loved Sting. And then, as time went on and you had that Clash of the Champions build, and he finally took on Ric Flair in that 45-minute draw, and everybody was just so bummed out he didn't win that match. But, of course, went on to have this iconic career. I mean, everybody just was so thrilled to see him every time he came out. He just, and the way you talk about him, he exuded that charisma and that excitement, and you just couldn't wait to see the guy. Right. And you hung on every word that he said. You just felt like, man, I just want to go hang out with this dude. And, if he wants to go beat somebody up, man, I'm with him. Let's do it. And then, of course, the whole thing happened with the NWO, and, he disappeared and he's gone. And then all of a sudden he's hanging out in the rafters and he's wearing a trench coat and he's black. And I'm like, what happened? Who's this guy? And like, oh my God, Sting's dark. Yikes. And then of course he never really changed. And then the TNA run and all that. And of course, and I one of the, of course, to me, the most incredible moment in there was what he had to do with Jeff Hardy. I'll never forget that moment. I mean, that had to break his heart, having to do what he did in the Victory Road pay-per-view. And I'm sure you remember that too, Phil.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and in there too, my brain was starting to think like fake Sting.
Yeah, that whole thing was a little weird.
And it was like, there was that period of time where it was like, well, Sting was everywhere. He was booked for all their road shows. He was their most popular guy in WCW. He was booked for television appearances. Well, we've also committed to overseas bookings. Well, what if we have this other guy step in and be Sting?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? And then that was, the burgeoning days of the internet. Fans were like, I don't know if that's Sting. What's going on here? And eventually got called out. And it's funny because a friend of mine in England got booked one time to be Stinger.
Oh, wow.
Dressed up in the same way. And he's like, I hated it. He offered me a lot of money, so I did it.
That's nice.
But, so it was also then what a compliment to have multiple people dress up as you to fulfill all of the dates and obligations. But just, I'm trying not to think of the Jeff Hardy situation. Of course, now all I can think of is the Jeff Hardy situation. But here's a man who didn't stop. Neck surgery didn't stop him, and he goes to the WWE and almost has a career-ending injury again.
Yeah.
And then went on now to AEW and has continued. So it's just awesome to see what he's been able to do in the span of his career. And I'm interested in sort of seeing what happens next. I hope there is a next, but I don't know what that next is.
Yeah. It's funny. He's going to be doing a little toy show here. Well, pretty big show here in Las Vegas about a month after this is over. He's actually going to be here WrestleMania weekend.
Okay.
So of course I'm going to be out of here. I'll be headed your way for WrestleMania apparently, but so it'll be interesting to see what the future holds if he's just going to be heading out, but he's apparently done. But yeah, that WWE run too, boy, it's a shame he got hurt because we got denied the one match everybody wanted. Mm-hmm. That one match with the Undertaker. But yeah, and of course the not going over against Triple H, kind of heartbreaking too. But and it was funny that I still am amazed that he held out that long, not going to WWE. But it's funny learning all the stuff that we learned about what was going on in WWE. Kind of maybe understand why.
Right. Yeah.
Makes sense. But it's going to be an amazing night, and and I think that AEW handled this really well. Decided to protect him and not have him wrestle singles matches. Found a great partner to work with in Darby Allin, and like I said, I got to talk to Darby about how the whole thing happened, and just Sting picked him out, and they've worked so well together. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be fascinating to see how this ends up tonight. Phil, do you think he wins or loses tonight? That's been the question that everybody's been asking for a few weeks. Do they win and vacate the titles, or do the Bucks get the win this evening?
Oh wow, that's
Isn't that a tough call? Because man, it's usually the tradition you go out on your back, but man, I tell you what, I want him to win tonight. I really do.
now I'm gonna say yes and no because there have been times you have seen it where that doesn't happen that way, and so it I'm intrigued with what might happen. I don't think Sting's gonna take a pin. I feel that if something was to happen, Darby would be the one who suffers the fate, right? Um, that it's something that takes Sting out of the equation of it and maybe makes the save at the end because wow, it's Sting and here, big celebration. Um, there's ways you can tell the story without having to have him lose. But you're right. There is also this older tradition of, put the younger guys over and like you need to be thankful and appreciative and take the pinfall. So I can see that as well. I'm just interested in seeing just how it's handled. That's the excitement of today, and to have it happen in Greensboro as well means so much. So I fought the urge, the last minute urge. I saw a few people online like, man, I have to sell this ticket, and I was like, I can make it there. I can totally like drive back, and I go straight to work in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a great night. I'm seeing a lot of people I know are going to be down there this evening, and it should be a sensational evening, not just because of that match, but it's going to be a pretty good card tonight too. So, we'll take a look at that as well as we go through the show, but man, it's going to be it's going to be hard to say goodbye to one of the really good guys in professional wrestling, and has just held his head up high and been such a great role model for everybody in the industry over, man, 40 years, Phil. 40 years. It's absolutely incredible. But yeah, so I would recommend, man, if there's a pay-per-view you're going to buy from AEW, I think this would be the one. And for all you longtime fans, seeing the Stinger go out tonight, and it's not like he's just been hiding in corners and things like that. He's been doing the work, and I think you're going to have a great time if you watch this pay-per-view, Phil.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Yep. So make sure you check it out tonight. AEW Revolution coming up, available on all your favorite pay-per-view outlets. Bleacher Report's usually your main one right now, so check that out, and we'll say goodbye to the icon. Sting hanging it up tonight in Greensboro, North Carolina. So should be a lot of fun. And with that, we'll take our first break. And my hero, Phil Stamper, the president of wrestling, sitting in with me today here on the Mark Hoke Show. And when we come back, we'll take a look at that AEW Revolution card. And we have all sorts of stuff going on, too, because The Rock put a 20-minute video out today. We're going to talk about that later in the show. And Major League Wrestling, well, they just got a $20 million bump in their budget. Congratulations to those boys. But how it relates to the rest of the world of professional wrestling is something Phil and I are going to talk about. So stick around, everybody. We got a whole lot to discuss here on the Mark Hoke Show. It's the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the Talk Las Vegas, the Odyssey app, and streaming on YouTube and Facebook. Stick around. We got a whole lot more.
In Nevada, anything that goes into the storm drain goes directly to our local waterways, which can pollute Nevada's lakes and rivers. Nevada is the driest state in the nation, and we must work together to preserve our limited water resources for future generations of Nevadans. Here's some waterway wisdom so you can help do your part. Scoop your dog's poop, bag it, and discard it. Clean up yard waste and grass clippings. Wash your car at a car wash or on grass or gravel. Apply pesticides and fertilizers sparingly in your yard. Safely dispose of household chemicals. Clean up leaks and spills. And don't litter. Secure trash in bins. Keep contaminants out of our storm drains. Use waterway wisdom. And remember, only rain should go into the storm drain. Join us in preserving Nevada's waters for future generations by visiting loveenvywaters.com and following us on social media.
This message funded by a grant through the Nevada Department of Transportation, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
Ready for your next vacation? Not so fast. Before you hit the road, remember these healthy habits to keep yourself and others safe and sanitary. Wash your hands after using the restroom, before eating and after blowing your nose. Sanitize airplane seats and tray tables. Sneeze or cough into a tissue or your elbow. And avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Lastly, make sure you're up to date on all your routine vaccines, including the COVID-19 vaccine. It's also important to get tested when necessary, such as if you develop COVID-19 symptoms before, during, or after travel. If you will be traveling to visit someone who is at a higher risk of getting very sick from COVID-19, or if you're in a situation with a greater risk of exposure during travel. Pack these tips on your next adventure. And remember, travel safely, Nevadans. This message is sponsored by a CDC grant through the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
If you live in Clark County, you are at risk of developing non-smoking lung cancer. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that gets into homes and increases one's risk of lung cancer, and it exists here in Clark County. Radon is colorless and odorless, so the only way you know if your radon level is elevated in your home or office is by testing. To get your free test kit, visit our website with a new interactive map to find a pickup location nearest you at www.extension.unr.edu/radon. 21,000 people die of lung cancer each year, and Nevadans are at a higher risk. If an elevated level of radon is found, there are ways to reduce it and lower the risk of getting lung cancer. Get your free test kit today. Visit our website with a new interactive map to find a pickup location nearest you at www.extension.unr.edu/radon. Sponsored by the University of Nevada, Reno Extension's Radon Education Program, and aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
1015 FM KDAWN.
This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And we return to the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 1015 FM. It is the talk of Las Vegas. Highest rated live show on the station as we, just do all sorts of crazy stuff. That's what we do. Best in pro wrestling news and entertainment. And I've got the president of wrestling, Phil Stamper, along for the ride. Put on a fuzzy coat. By the way, you can see it on the live stream there. Phil, what you got?
Since you mentioned the crazy, and you also, before we went to commercial break, mentioned the Rock promo, I felt I had to grab my bathrobe. I felt like it was appropriate to get ready to discuss everything else we were going to discuss today. So in perfect glory, I'm wearing the presidential bathrobe.
Very nice. Very nice. Good touch.
Thank
I
you.
should have grabbed one too.
You sound great. You always sound great. I think you need a drink of water. Man, like I feel for you right now. I feel for you. You're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this together.
My throat has been messed up for weeks, and this is an honest to God true story. And I texted you this, but I have these Vicks Severe Vapo Cool cough drops. Right, they're pretty strong, and I was sucking on one before we came on the air, but kind of didn't finish it off before we made it, and I chewed it. Do not recommend. Wow. Oh, what a rush.
A friend of mine suggested to me, I think I'm going to mess up the name of it, but it's something like Fisherman's Wharf, and it's a cough drop. You'll not have a sore throat, but everything else will feel like you've just I don't know, like your soul just got sucked out of your face. But
yikes. Well, I'm going to pass on that. But that was very interesting. Anyway, so of course, aside from Sting tonight, who we were talking about to kick the show off, we do have a few other matches coming up tonight on AEW Revolution. And Phil, what else are you looking forward to tonight? Because I mean, there's we got the 11 matches this evening. We got that All-Star Scramble match. That was supposed to be the meat match, but they just decided to. I think we lost a few meaty guys that couldn't wrestle, so they just threw a bunch of people in there for shot at the world championship. I think this looks like it's going to be Wardlow's night, as he's going to get coronated as the heir apparent to the world championship. But he's got Jericho, Powerhouse Hobbs, Lance Archer, Hook, Brian Cage, Magnus, and Dante Martin. Now that could be a fun one tonight.
That could be fun, and you have different styles, different body types are going to be all in this match together. I'm intrigued by how they pull off this match. I don't think, I'll be honest, I don't think this is going to be one of my favorite matches on the event, but I'm excited to see how they pull it off. I mean, Chris Jericho, of course, is a legend. You have Wardlow that has this realm of possibility. The fans are supporting him. Powerhouse Hobbs, to me, is a man who's built for the future of professional wrestling. I think we're going to see more and more out of Hobbs as we move to the future. Lance Archer is a beast.
Yeah.
And he needs a moment. He needs that moment to showcase to everybody what he really can do. And I've watched him over the last 2 years develop himself even further. And so I'm just excited to see what he will do. Hook.
Do you like Hook?
I don't like Hook.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe this is unfair. This is from a fan perspective. I am not a fan of Hook. That is just me. I hear the response the crowd gives him. And so he's developed a fan base that's really excited about him. And that's awesome. I think he is outclassed by everybody else in this match. But I think he's going to have a showcase in here where they will give him an opportunity to shine. But I think he's out of his league.
Wow. I'm a little torn on him too, but every time I feel like, what's he doing in there? He does some things that impress me, but he's still learning,
Yeah.
But I'm mixed on Hook too.
Yes. There's a whole little other breakdown in the sidebar in my brain about AEW because I love AEW. I really do enjoy the product for the most part, but there's these little tweaks, and Hook is one of these tweaks that I'm like, give a Hook an opportunity to develop, but not in front of your main audience on television, on your pay-per-views, because he needs that opportunity to develop, and throwing him out there, I think, makes him suffer. I think the fans who are supporting him are going to eventually turn because they're going to see, he can't keep up to the same pace as. I mean, Samoa Joe did great with Hook because of things Samoa Joe did. And I want him to succeed. I just don't think he's there right now.
Let's sidebar for a sec. We can get to the rest of the matches on that, because I do think that's an interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
That, early on in AEW, you kind of had to expect that. They did bring a lot of talent in that was very green, that over time has obviously developed into being some pretty good guys and women. But, now you have such a depth of talent that when you are pulling some of these people in, that you can see that they're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
What does AEW do with them? I mean, you have such a massive roster on there. I mean, if I was Tony, I'm kind of torn because you don't want to cut them.
Right.
But then the thing is that with ROH, it's kind of a weird situation because, you could put them there,
mm-hmm.
but you don't have a TV contract for them. And it feels kind of like, I guess for me with ROH, it was always, that was a kind of a separate place and a separate feel to it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel separate. You're kind of flip-flopping everybody down there. And I guess I just wish that Ring of Honor, that if you're on Ring of Honor, you're on Ring of Honor. If you're on AEW, you're on AEW, and the twain don't cross. I get mad enough when people go down to NXT that are on the WWE main roster. I don't like when they do it. I feel like if you're going to put people on Ring of Honor, leave them there. That's your developmental group down there, and then push them up to the AEW roster. Am I off on this? Or?
I am very much right there with you. When Tony bought Ring of Honor, I actually felt this is what they're going to do, because they were getting rid of the darks to make Ring of Honor, and that would be their YouTube product. I was like, this is exactly what you need. You need that opportunity to get people who haven't had that much experience in front of a television camera to understand production, to understand what that means, because wrestling on television is a little bit different than wrestling on a live event. But there's a way to blend it that I think can showcase well, that AEW has done well at, but give some folks that opportunity to really develop. And to your point about the mix, I am mixed on that mix of whether or not you put some Ring of Honor folks on AEW television and vice versa, because you want those little, no pun intended, hooks on the product to go, oh, hey, you need to have interest in what we're doing over here. here's somebody to showcase, so that way you'll be maybe interested to check in on the product. But you're right, to give that opportunity to build a developmental organization and give them that regular opportunity for your regular reps to build up those personalities, to build up their in-ring acumen, and go, okay, now we're developing the next stars who will then appear on AEW as fully or more fleshed out personas and more fleshed out in their in-ring ability. That's great. I thought that's exactly what Ring of Honor was going to be doing. And even when they first started, I was like, oh, they're just, they're planting the seed. They're planting, like, look at all these great people that we have lined up in Ring of Honor. So that way, like, you're interested in the product, and they'll move some of those people back to AEW. They'll move some other people over into Ring of Honor. And they haven't done that. They've like, no, Ring of Honor is its brand. And I get that. I respect the history of Ring of Honor, but use this as an opportunity to raise up those people, to get them ready then for AEW. They have so many people under contract. And when I say this is not me disparaging anybody or saying like people should be fired. That's nowhere near where I'm going. But diversify them, put some folks in Ring of Honor, and build that product, but give those people an opportunity to showcase and shine, and then focus on the people that you can focus on in AEW to build them up and showcase and shine. Because talking about this match with Hook, the next person we were going to talk about was Brian Cage. And Brian Cage, I don't think has had the opportunity to showcase as the star he is in AEW, because it's sort of like he got lost in the mix. Lance Archer got lost in the mix.
Right.
And it's like, I see what they're doing, and there's an analogy in my brain that I don't want to say, but like I see sort of the structure they're doing. And I do agree that you don't need a guy the size of Brian Cage to lead your show, but Brian Cage himself is a star, a very talented person with amazing athletic ability. You're not talking somebody who's just walking around like a wall who can't move, because that used to be the stereotype in WWE. You're going to bring up this 6.5 foot guy who just stands there like a big meathead and can't wrestle or move, and like he moves his arm one way and everybody's like flipping around for him. That's not what I'm talking about. These guys can actually go and wrestle. But to our point, there's some folks that like you need to trim a little bit and put them somewhere where they can grow and develop, or AEW. And again, this is me saying this because I believe in the product and believe in the potential it can be. You have so many people, so many intelligent people who understand wrestling and are knowledgeable about it. You have a Billy Gunn, you have a Dean Malenko, you have all these people who are there, who are anchors of support for your system. Let them help guide and rudder your ships a little bit, and they're not able to. And so sometimes I feel like AEW gets lost in the margins. They get lost in the blurs instead of focusing on like, here's the people we want to develop and showcase as the big stars. And we lose then a lot of the people that should be developed and built into their big stars.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought that up, and we're going a totally different place I was going to go, but that's okay. That's part of the fun radio. That there was a story that came out just I just saw it today when I was doing show prep. They were talking about that Tony's been doing a lot of stuff last minute lately, and some people are complaining about it, that they feel like he's been booking things kind of on the fly, and unfortunately maybe pulling a little more Vince McMahon type booking style and getting away from more of the long-term stuff, and people are getting frustrated about it. And maybe that's part of what's showing. I mean, I remember I had Saraya here last year around Double or Nothing time, and I had asked her about what was going to be going on with her at Double or Nothing, and she said, I don't know. And we were talking, a couple of weeks before the card, and honest to God, I mean, I played poker for a long time and studied body language. She wasn't kidding.
Yeah.
She didn't know. And I sat there and I was like, huh, that's interesting. And I just wonder sometimes, and sometimes I'll see, for example, some of these matches come together so quickly on the pay-per-views, and you kind of wonder, are they just booking stuff too quick and maybe not coming up with some long-term plans? And as part of the problem too, you've got so many people that you're trying to figure too many things out at once, and just need to sort that out. Maybe that's why Jennifer Fetterman, if I got the name right, bringing her in is important to maybe help sort this out a little bit.
And I've worked with a couple of independent companies that have had this problem. Like, oh, I want to honor all these people that have helped us, and I want to make sure everyone gets. Also, then everyone gets a spot, and what you end up is here's a 12-person tag match, and here's a scramble match, and here's another scramble match, and here's a 4-way match, and oh yeah, this person's gonna have 5 people with them at ringside, and not with the intention of not doing anything or focusing. But it's like, oh, now I feel like I need to honor all of these people and just give them something, as opposed to giving them something with a purpose.
Right.
And so I understand, I get that. And AEW is still a young company, AEW, and especially as a television product. And you look at Vince McMahon, and and outside of other troubles that he's going through right now, here is a person who built television, but he built it over 30, 40, almost 50 years now. And really planted a lot of seeds, of course, and he made mistakes, a lot of mistakes, outside of what we know of, along that way. But he learned and developed and took examples from television. And now, by no means do I think AEW needs to become WWE, but somewhere, I think actually in a drawer over there, I have a copy of a Monday Night Raw script, and it's like version 7, and this was in like hour 2 of a 3-hour Raw, and because that's just how they operate it, because it's live television. Oh, we got to adjust. Oh, timing has to be different. Oh, this has to change. Oh, this person actually showed up and now they're sick. They're throwing up in the bathroom. Like, okay, we got to rewrite stuff on the fly. Like, things do happen too. And we don't know the full story too behind the scenes of, oh, they had a plan going into this, and then this talent was unavailable. This talent got injured. Something went different. Oh, now we do have a plan because this person is going to do something in when we get to September, so we have to get ready to do this to September, but we can't do this now because it will hurt what we're going to plant for September. So sometimes that does happen, but I do feel like it's a lot. It's a little too blurry and not focused right now.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You keep seeing people get signed, and I sometimes I wonder if they're signing people just to make sure that they don't get signed by WWE. As opposed to you're signing people because you really, really want them. You know what I mean? Or that they don't end up in TNA or, or elsewhere. And you would probably know better about that than anybody, being the king of the indies. I mean, you know the deal.
I mean, I will say I used to hate, and this is a more of a reference directly to Impact, and it is what it is. I used to hate when Impact would sign somebody who'd left the WWE, because they all would do the same thing. They would come in and cut a promo that was like, that other place didn't know how to use me, so I'm here to make a pause, wait for it, an Impact. And they would go on to have like a showcase match or two, and then do nothing for 4 months, and then they were gone from Impact. And I hated that so much. I hated it. And they're not quite doing it. There's things that people will drop and say now and again in promos about that other place. But I'm okay if they bring in former WWE guys, but then don't let them get lost in the bloat or in the blur. There's a lot of people we haven't seen in a minute, and it's like, what's going on here? And how do you develop the focus you need on your product to make it to shine? And one of the challenges, sort of as you mentioned, I'm going to give a compliment and a concern, I guess. The compliment is, it does sound like Tony does make himself available, and has at a few times very recently also said, I want to talk to you, and let's have an open conversation. Now it does seem like he's a little more, I know what I'm doing. Like that I want to have this open conversation. Let's be open about things. And people start being open and like, nope. I don't take the criticism. I know what I'm doing. And it's like, but you have to be able to accept that a little bit to be able to grow and be better. And maybe he is, maybe he is taking it just in that moment, it's a defense wall, and then we'll take it back and like process and come back later. But it's hard when, like you said, you have somebody on the talent who's like, yeah, we have a pay-per-view in 2 weeks, and they haven't really said what I'm doing. Or your merch people, and like you haven't told them like, oh yeah, we're gonna do a trip overseas, and make sure you have everything ready to go overseas. That means you have to find a distributor over in another country that can also print out your shirts and have them ready and deliver. What about your press guys and marketers who like are getting everything ready, and not just graphics, but also working the press up to get them interested and excited, to get your mainstream media involved in publicizing and putting it out and putting it over that this is an amazing major event that's coming. it's a lot of work more than just, I have this idea that we're gonna do a match and it's gonna happen in 2 weeks on a pay-per-view. Like, you have to develop that. And WWE has fallen into that trap too. Like, they have done that a lot. They've done that the week of WrestleMania going,
Yeah,
we're setting up a
used to
match
be.
now for Saturday. Like,
Yeah, they used to be really bad about that. I mean,
Yeah.
really bad. So
and so learn from the lesson. And you know, and like I said, I do feel maybe this is growth in progress. Maybe this is like, okay, we're still figuring all of this out. And maybe to Tony's credit, he tried to bring in Ring of Honor and be like, I'm making it and establish it as yes, it's a new Ring of Honor, but I'm making and establishing it as its own strong brand, giving it its own identity. But I don't think that's really the purpose it could have been used for. Like you said, I really like the idea of that could have been the developmental ground. Yes, put some people there that are really talented, super talented, to help those younger folks up. I mean, and when I say this, I mean this with all due respect. Ring of Honor to me in the last year has been the Athena show. And
Yeah.
I love Athena, and
Yep.
Athena is awesome. And what she has done in that program, especially to like help Billy Starks, you can watch it and you can see it happen. And it's amazing. And I'm like, that's perfect. That's a perfect example of what you can do. Put a star with younger talent and bring up this younger talent to bring them up to a new level. And then look what you've developed. And now we can put them over here if we need them.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, boy, we got it going, Phil Stamper. We
Woo!
got it going. Oh man, I may have to preempt the next show the way we're going here, but that could get me in trouble. All right, hey, we have to take a break, and when we come back, a whole lot more. Yeah, we got a pay-per-view to talk about. We got The Rock. we got MLW and lawsuits and crazy stuff happening. Stick around here on the Mark Hoke Show on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the Talk of Las Vegas, the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment, and a whole lot more. The president of pro wrestling, Phil Stamper, joining me. We certainly appreciate him being here. We'll be right back.
My son stopped talking to me. He didn't want to leave his room.
I didn't feel like talking to anyone. I just wanted to be alone.
I was really worried about my daughter. She was angry all the time.
I felt so depressed.
I was really worried about my daughter.
I couldn't do anything right. I was always getting yelled at.
My son told me he wanted to hurt himself. I was so scared.
I was feeling hopeless. It was all too much.
We needed help.
We needed help.
We needed help.
We needed help.
I needed help.
I called the mobile crisis response team, and we met with them that same day.
A crisis team came to my house and helped me talk to my parents about how I was feeling.
I called the mobile crisis response team. They met with us that day.
I talked to them about how I was feeling, and it really helped.
Sometimes understanding what children are experiencing can be difficult. The Nevada Children's Mobile Crisis Response Team provides mental health intervention and support. Learn more at nocrisis.com.
This message sponsored by the FBI Las Vegas Citizens Academy Alumni Association, a nonprofit organization separate and apart from the FBI in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association.
The FBI is engaged in a nationwide effort to build public awareness of hate crimes and encourage reporting to law enforcement. Hate crimes include crimes committed on the basis of the victim's perceived or actual race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. Hate crimes are not only an attack on the victim, they are meant to threaten and intimidate an entire community. If you believe you are a victim or a witness of a hate crime, we encourage you to report it to the FBI by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip at tips.fbi.gov. You may remain anonymous. Again, report suspected hate crimes by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip at tips.fbi.gov. The FBI works to protect all victims of crimes, regardless of their country of national origin or immigration status. The FBI encourages victims and witnesses of any hate-related incident to report it to law enforcement. This message sponsored by the FBI Las Vegas Division, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
You're pregnant, and no matter what you do, no matter what you try, you can't stop using alcohol, drugs, or tobacco. But no matter how lost you are, how far along you are, it's not too late. There's always hope, and there are many safe places that can help you stop using. In Nevada, pregnant women are given the highest priority for substance use treatment. Low-cost treatment options may be available so you and your baby can get healthy now. If you or someone you love is pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant and using alcohol, drugs, or tobacco, visit SoberMomsHealthyBabies.org or call 211 to find help today. SoberMomsHealthyBabies.org also has resources for healthcare providers, friends, and family. If you want to help someone who's pregnant and using, visit SoberMomsHealthyBabies.org or call 211 today. Sponsored by the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health and in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
Understanding the many things in a mother's life affecting her pregnancy is important. You can help improve the health of all mothers and babies in Nevada by completing a Pregnancy Risk Assessment Monitoring System survey about your recent pregnancy. Also known as PRAMS, the survey is from the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The survey asks new moms about their experience before, during, and after pregnancy. Responses are confidential and used to help improve the health of mothers and babies in Nevada. If you receive a PRAMS survey, please share your story. Learn more at nvprams.dpbh.nv.gov. That's nvprams.dpbh.nv.gov. This message sponsored by the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
1015 FM KDAWN. You're listening to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Vegas, The Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Now, here again is Mark Hoke.
All right, let's keep this baby rolling. It's the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment. It is the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 1015 FM, of course, streaming live on that Odyssey app. If you have not downloaded that app, you are a fool. Shame on you. Phil Stamper, do you have the Odyssey app?
Of course I do.
Okay, good answer. But it's a great app. Of course, all sorts of shows from around the world. It's an amazing app. So get it on your phone right now, AUDACY. It's pretty cool. You'll enjoy it, promise. Wanted to, by the way, of course, we're streaming right now on YouTube and Facebook. And if you want to hop in there, go to our pages, The Mark Hoke Show, and you can ask Phil a question. You can ask me a question. Say, Mark, why do you sound like crap? Or say, Phil, why are you putting your bathrobe on? We're going to answer that question.
Took it off.
I took it off. It's off now, but
yes,
you looked fuzzy. It was cool. But anyway, I do want to get in the World Championship match for tonight, Phil, because I'm curious to get your thoughts, and we can get back to that card maybe later on if we have time in hour number 2 of the show. Samoa Joe, who a few years ago around this time was wearing a poncho doing commentary, and of course is now wearing the strap for AEW and doing a darn good job taking on Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. These three guys have been doing an unbelievable job getting ready for this match. Yeah. Who's going down tonight, Phil, and who's walking out with the AEW World Championship?
I
know.
No, I will say, because the second you mentioned the poncho, the first thing I thought of was that Swerve on his social media took the graphic of the match and replaced Samoa Joe with the image of Samoa Joe with the poncho on the graphic for the match. And I was like, this is awesome.
I know.
But I wouldn't be upset if Samoa Joe won. I wouldn't be upset if Swerve won. And to talk about Swerve for a moment, here's somebody. I mean, I feel like I took the whole last segment. I was saying maybe not great things that some people want to hear about AEW, though I love the AEW product. Here is Strick, who was failed by the WWE. There's no other way to put it. When you look at the success of and what he's been able to showcase since he's been on AEW, here is a superstar. Here is somebody who has risen above what a lot of people's expectations were of him and has showed up. There is so much of me that wants him to walk away with the championship. Adam Page, he has a big fan swell of support. He was one of the originals of AEW. I don't feel him as strongly as AEW World Champion, though. That's just me. This is Phil Stamper opinion. I think, though, this match is going to be hard hitting. I think this match is going to be amazing. I think this is the match of the year right here in pro wrestling. I think this is going to be an absolute showcase I am really, really, really looking forward to this match.
And you still haven't answered the question.
I didn't, did I?
Come on, Phil.
I mean, I am stuck. It's going to be Samoa Joe or Swerve.
All
And I'm
right.
not upset with either. So let's say Samoa Joe retains.
I'm going with you. I think Swerve gets screwed over somehow, but Joe is going to walk out with the title. So keep Swerve rolling. Keep him in the chase.
Exactly. I was gonna say, if done right, this is where you catapult Swerve to an entirely new dimension. I mean, he's there, but this match I think has this potential to really be that platform for him. Where then it's like there will be never a doubt again that he deserves to be in this picture and will be in this picture again.
Yep. I think that's the way to go. And eventually you're going to get Wardlow probably taking out Joe, and then Swerve comes after the Undisputed Kingdom, and should be pretty interesting. I think that's a pretty good road. And then MJF will be back at some point.
Right.
That'll be fun. So I like that finish. I did want to make sure we got to talk about this. Well, we're going to have a couple minutes, so maybe we won't get the discussion done, but we will. Major League Wrestling gets $20 million from a settlement with WWE over this antitrust situation where they were claiming that WWE was stopping them from bookings and not being able to be a part of TV networks and so on. Phil, what did you think of this, man? That's 20 million smackaroos.
I really didn't expect that. I mean, I just didn't. I thought there was going to be so much in the way to have to, be able to prove it and show it and all this stuff. The fact that, it didn't get dismissed out of court, the fact that WWE looked at this and went, we need to resolve this. Was like, oh, wow, that this is a game changer for MLW. Hopefully, MLW has a television product. MLW is showcased, has a lot of great talent on it. But now if they can use this money to just put into their production, to put into their outlets, to put into a couple more names that they can bring in to help, again, just bring up that whole audience, I think they can do something special here. I'm excited about what they do next.
Yeah, if you haven't seen MLW, they do have a TV contract out there. They're on TV, but they were trying to expand their operations and do some different things, and WWE, supposedly blocked them, and apparently, they proved enough in court that WWE said, maybe we were kind of bad boys. So it will be interesting to see what they do with it. And it's kind of the same story with a lot of smaller promotions. Put it into production. It's the way it's always been. I remember sitting with Jimmy Hart one time when he was talking about Ring of Honor and said, God, they need to up their production. They need to up their production. And I think MLW is no different. I think you need to take that money and you need to put it in production first and go from there. Because if you can make that product look better, now you're a little more competitive in the marketplace. Because if it just looks like it's, you're filming in a high school or a small gym or something like that and using the spotlights in the roof, it doesn't look like a special product. But there's a lot of talent there. There has been for years. So that would be do.
In the world of wrestling, so much of what you see is duct tape. Like, people don't know that behind the scenes what's holding up everything you're seeing. And I think there is something that I think MLW can harness. I'm hoping though that there's a way to bring up more of their talent. Because they do have a lot of very talented people. And I think they've given a lot of people some opportunity, but I look at it sometimes, I'm like, but is that person ready? Like, and I don't know. And then you started looking at the bigger picture of the landscape of wrestling, and like so many people are under a contract with WWE and AEW and TNA. Ooh.
Yeah, keep going. We got a couple seconds.
Oh, gotcha. That I'm just really hopeful that they can harness something with those who are remaining and deserving of that opportunity.
Yep. Of course, Hammerstone just coming out there. Jacob Fatu with that legendary feud they had. The opportunity's there now. Let's see what Major League Wrestling does with it. All right, hour one's in the books. Phil Stamper saving me in here. God bless your soul, sir. I appreciate it. We're going to do another hour of the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment here on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the talk of Las Vegas. Stick around for more. It's time to talk about The Rock. Did he clean all this mess up that he made? I'm maybe. Stick around, guys. We'll be right back with more on the Mark Hoke Show. We'll be right back.
Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join the Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.
Listen to the Texas Corners Bible Church every Saturday night at 7 p.m. and Sunday night at 10 p.m. on 101.5 FM.
In Nevada, anything that goes into the storm drain goes directly to our local waterways, which can pollute Nevada's lakes and rivers. Nevada is the driest state in the nation, and we must work together to preserve our limited water resources for future generations of Nevadans. Here's some waterway wisdom so you can help do your part. Scoop your dog's poop, bag it, and discard it. Clean up yard waste and grass clippings. Wash your car at a car wash or on grass or gravel. Apply pesticides and fertilizers sparingly in your yard. Safely dispose of household chemicals. Clean up leaks and spills. And don't litter. Secure trash in bins. Keep contaminants out of our storm drains. Use waterway wisdom. And remember, only rain should go into the storm drain. Join us in preserving Nevada's waters for future generations by visiting loveenvywaters.com and following us on social media.
This message funded by a grant through the Nevada Department of Transportation, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
Ready for your next vacation? Not so fast. Before you hit the road, remember these healthy habits to keep yourself and others safe and sanitary. Wash your hands after using the restroom, before eating and after blowing your nose. Sanitize airplane seats and tray tables. Sneeze or cough into a tissue or your elbow. And avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Lastly, make sure you're up to date on all your routine vaccines, including the COVID-19 vaccine. It's also important to get tested when necessary, such as if you develop COVID-19 symptoms before, during, or after travel. If you'll be traveling to visit someone who is at a higher risk of getting very sick from COVID-19, or if you're in a situation with a greater risk of exposure during travel. Pack these tips on your next adventure. And remember, travel safely, Nevadans. This message is sponsored by a CDC grant through the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
Spring training is here, and the free Odyssey app has everything you need to get ready for opening day. In-depth team coverage from the biggest sports radio stations across the country, exclusive interviews with players, managers, and MLB insiders, and podcasts dedicated to your favorite team. Listen live to the latest breaking news from around the league, or choose from a list of topics and listen on demand. It's all on the free Odyssey app. Download it today. AUDACY.
Tune in to Real Estate Live with the Real Estate Guys, Aaron and Jacob Taylor. We're keeping it real, we're keeping it current, and we're keeping it fun. Las Vegas' #1 real estate show. Catch us every Saturday at 3 p.m. on 101.5.
The Real Estate Guy.
KMXB HD3 Henderson, K268CS Las Vegas. Always live on the free Odyssey app. 101.5 FM KDAWN.
A ceasefire deal, it's on the table. I'm Deborah Valentine, Fox News. The Biden administration confirming Israel has agreed to the framework of a proposed Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal, and it's now up to Hamas to agree to it. Officials have been working for weeks to broker a deal before the Muslim holiday of Ramadan, which is set to begin 1 week from today. A powerful Pacific storm is bringing lots of blizzard conditions to California and Nevada this weekend, including several feet of snow and wind gusts over 100 miles per hour. A truck driver from Reno, Nevada, heading to California, described conditions that he drove through.
It was through, but it was still pretty bad.
Really?
Blizzards and everything. But we got over. Some of the roads weren't cleaned off yet.
Caltrans crews had to shut down several highways and mountain passes, including a 50-mile stretch on I-80 after multiple reports of spinouts and jackknife tractor trailers. Voters from more than a dozen states are getting ready to hit the polls on Super Tuesday. Former President Donald Trump securing 10 times as many delegates than his opponent, Nikki Haley, in primary races so far. Fox's Madeline Rivera is in Washington with more.
The map looks even more favorable for former President Trump on Super Tuesday. More than a third of GOP delegates are up for grabs in most of the states. Award them by winner take all, meaning the candidate who gets the majority of the vote gets all the delegates. That is a clear advantage for Trump, who's touting his performance on Saturday after sweeping the Michigan GOP convention and the Missouri and Idaho GOP caucuses.
Today, it looks like we're winning close to 100% of both Missouri and Michigan, adding on to the last two total. Last Tuesday, Michigan total was a record, but now we're adding on the rest.
The latest delegate tally stands at 244 for Trump, and
America's listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
5 inches of rain by tomorrow.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Going bell to bell with the best in professional wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's get to all the exciting pro wrestling action and bring on the host. Here is Mark Hoke.
And we are back for hour number 2 of the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the talk of Las Vegas. Also streaming on the Odyssey app. And we are also live streaming the show on Facebook and YouTube. Hop in that chat box. Say hi. You got any questions for myself or our incredible superstar guest? He is the president of wrestling. That's right. I didn't get a vote, but I'd still vote for him. I don't know. I don't know who he's running against, but, you know, I'll just give it to him anyway. Phil Stamper at Trust and Phil on the show. What's going on, Phil?
When you are as good as I am, you are made president.
Oh, really?
Not just elected in.
Oh, I see. You know, Phil, when I get out there for WrestleMania, I'm going to have a ballot in my hand. You know what? What would happen if I ran against you, Phil?
You'd have a good, strong contingent from Nevada.
Yeah, I have friends coming with me.
And from there, I don't know. From there, because I don't know. I have some friends out that way too. You know, I have a particular submission gangster who is from the DMV, like me.
All right. Maybe we'll have to do a little election. Let's see what happens. What happens if you lose? What happens if you lose?
I'm not going
Phil?
to, so I don't even need to have a contingency plan.
I don't know.
Or like every great president, once they leave, you know, I just become a cult leader.
Okay, that's legit. You could be the cult leader of wrestling. I'll you know, you could be my vice president. I mean, if you lose, I'll let you be the VP. No,
I'm holding my pearl, sir.
It's all good. Phil Stamper joining us on the show. Of course, one of the great experts in independent wrestling across the country, puts together this calendar. Is just unbelievable. And you know, follow him on Twitter if you want to know what's going on in independent wrestling across the United States and and North America, just check it out. It's amazing what this guy does. So once again, at Trust in Phil, and you will be incredibly impressed with everything Phil takes care of with that. It's stunning.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So let's get into what's going on in WWE, because Dwayne was a busy boy this week. Wasn't he? My goodness. The Rock just trying to make up. You know what? I think he heard me tearing him apart the last week or two. I think he did. No, he didn't. He didn't care. I'm a jabroni. But I will say I was a little tough on The Rock, especially that one promo. I didn't like how he was, saying Cody didn't earn anything, and I kind of tore him up. I am now going to give my love to The Rock. I am acknowledging The Rock because he did a hell of a job this week. If you were not on his social media, the man did a 21-minute promotional video that, I'll be honest with you, I almost felt bad for rooting for Cody Rhodes to get his shot, because he nailed it. He made me feel like, it should have been The Rock's shot, because he did this whole bit where he was putting in little videos and showing Cody hugging him backstage in Vegas, and how he was, he was the man, and putting all these big deals together, working with Ari, and made Seth Rollins look like an idiot, and it was pretty impressive. And then did a very good promo on SmackDown. Even had Paul Heyman kind of staring him down, had the L up in the air again. He's got Paul Heyman scared, and I smell something bad happening at WrestleMania. Of course, threw a challenge down to Cody on night one, so apparently that tag match is going to happen with him and Roman Reigns taking on Seth Rollins and Cody. And if Roman and Rock win, it's a bloodline rules match for the Universal title. Anything goes. If they would lose, then it's one-on-one for Cody and Roman, and everybody's barred from ringside, which if The Rock is planning to turn on Roman, it works either way. So I thought pretty good week for The Rock. I give the man credit. He did things right this week. Phil, what'd you think?
I mean, you're absolutely right. There's so many different ways to tell the story of what could happen next. And what you just laid out is exactly that. Let's say Roman loses to Cody. The Rock, oh, well, obviously you weren't the head of the table you thought you were. And now it's Roman versus Rock, for that. And so there's just so many different ways to go with this. Which also brings into my mind what would have happened if CM Punk hadn't gotten hurt?
Yeah.
How would have he been in all of this too? And it's been so interesting to see how they have been building up Roman Reigns over the last couple of years now, to be able to get to this point, to make him the modern day Bruno Sammartino, like the guy who's held the championship the longest. And I've had some people like, oh, this is their way to remove the legacy of ... I'm like, no, it's not. You're giving this current generation somebody to look to who they connect with and know of because they watched him. And then in 20 years, they're going to be like, that guy isn't a Roman Reigns. Because then they're going to be pulling references from 60 years ago. So I like that they're doing this. I don't think they're removing anybody's legacy, because you can't, because that happened. But so I am excited. And just like with The Rock is an amazing, talented person. I'm not going to lie. A 22-minute, 40-second promo, a little too long for me, but I like what he said.
Yeah.
I liked all of it. And he's, there were really good points made in it. And I'm like, but also, having some knowledge of things that have changed since he came on too. What plans were supposed to be there that then once they got the fan response that they went, maybe we need to rethink this.
Yeah.
But it also harkens back to, I don't know if you remember, before Roman Reigns was the champion, they were teasing a Roman Reigns Rock years, not even really against each other, but that The Rock was supporting Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns they were trying to make face and fans weren't buying it. The fans
at the Royal Rumble when that disaster happened.
Right. And The Rock quietly exited away because he was supposed to sort of bolster Roman Reigns up. And he got almost booed out of the building.
Yep.
And that was not intentional, or not the intention of the WWE at the time. So The Rock sort of went, okay, this is not what I need to be. I don't need my brand to be diminished now by Roman Reigns. And so now that they've switched it, and now that The Rock is accepting of this, I think this is working. I'm glad that he is doing this, and he is not wrong. Roman Reigns versus The Rock would have been a headline. The response you saw from fans was a genuine response when he's like, "Maybe I need to be the head of the table." Like that. Yeah, yes, absolutely. But then in that moment of retrospect, fans went, "Well, wait a minute. We've invested now over a year in Cody Rhodes and what he's doing. And now you've come here and we're supposed to switch all of it and our allegiances and like, what about this and what about that? Well, how about this?" Then it started to spin out of control a little bit. And then once it was, oh, this wasn't a surprise anymore. Now it's, oh, we see the intention of it. Oh, we don't know if we like this. Oh, no. And so The Rock to be able to tell this story of mapping it out, I think is great. I think a little long, but it's great. But you know what? The Rock will keep your attention for 24 minutes. That's the thing. So
yeah, and to me, that I had just been saying that the way that they had gone in and done this, it was like they kind of planted a time bomb in the middle of the Cody Rhodes story and just blew it up. And you were losing a lot of continuity in how you were handling the story by the way they were doing it. But honestly, I thought that video that he did cleaned a lot of it up. As a comic book guy, I'm big on continuity, and somebody likes to read stories, and as a sci-fi person too. And I hate when you deviate from too far off and you leave plot points that don't work, and you're like, well, you forgot about this, you forgot about that. He actually did a really good job cleaning some of that stuff up that I was criticizing him for and WWE for. So I thought that video did a terrific job in straightening a lot of those things out. I give him a ton of credit. A lot of it, while they put themselves in that spot, they were able to go back and kind of clean it up. And I like I said, give him a ton of credit for coming up with a way to do it. So now, while it shouldn't have happened the way they did it, it made sense. I'm still kind of mad at Rock for sticking his nose in and saying, yeah, you know what, we're just going to do this and all the plans you had be damned. But, it's going to work out in the end, I think. So, so credit.
And you might have talked about this before and on a previous episode of the Mark Hoke Show. The Rock coming into power, and now coming into power at a time when Vince, who has been the power for 50 years, is not there. And that even has power over Triple H. Like, that kind of influence of what's going to happen next with WWE. I mean, the Rock is a performer. The Rock makes great investments. Are there some things that have not worked for The Rock sometimes, of course?
Yeah, which I mentioned.
But there are things he's put money in that have been really successful.
Yeah.
And the fact that now he's has the power of the board, I'm like, wait, wow. This change of authority could really change the landscape of the WWE, of what could come next at a time when things were already beginning to change for the WWE. So I mean, as a product as a whole, I'm very excited and interested in sort of what happens next.
Yeah, and I think that having somebody who's been in that locker room and has a very clear understanding, and plus, I think one thing that is going to be good about Dwayne having this position is not only just because he's somebody that's been there before, is that he has family that's gone back generations as well.
Yeah.
So knowing that link, his family has seen it all too. And guarantee you, they've seen some pretty bad things that have happened in the industry over the past, say, 50 plus years. He's not going to let that happen again.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that while all this is great that's happening at WrestleMania, we've seen some more stories coming out this week that, man, it's more just rotten, terrible stuff.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that they're all sitting around saying, and that's not just people on the board, but people in that locker room, people in the corporate office that are saying, my God, this cannot ever, ever, ever happen again. I mean, I can only imagine what people say that wrestled in the 70s and 80s that probably, if they wanted to, that are biting their tongues right now, could tell story after story after story and are saying, my God, don't let this happen to you. Whether it's the men who, we just saw the Nick Kiniski story break again and that came out, or the ladies who I'm sure went through a living hell in Vince McMahon's world. I mean, the Rock and people like that will never tolerate that.
Right.
Never. So it's probably a good thing he's sitting in that room knowing that that won't stand. It won't. There's no way. So,
and little conspiracy theory in my brain of the fact that any corporation, any large body entity, this is not exclusive to wrestling, that has had to go through this kind of trauma in this way. Very different. That's an entertainment event, entertainment spectacle that now this has happened to, and in such a weird, almost storyline scripted way, if you look at it. And when Vince left before, well, what did Vince do when he came back? He had a doofy little pencil line mustache, and people spent more time talking about his hair color and his doofy line mustache than they did about the accusations. And it's like, oh, Vince is intelligent in the way of, hey, look, distraction squirrel, look over here, and how he was able to do that. And, so I'm hoping that legitimately, because one of the points in the lawsuit was when Vince came back and there was like, oh, we're going to have all these investigations and all these other accusations and all these things. And one of the comments was, I was never asked. I even offered to say something and was told, we're not interested. It's like, okay. So hopefully it is genuine. Hopefully it is a new era. And it is different than the 70s and 80s. And it is just a different time. And so I hope we can put this, we can put all this that's happened behind us. I hope those people who have suffered, who were victims, are taking care of themselves and are treated with the respect as they handle this, and they have to now deal with it and relive it as they've had to bring this back up, but that we can move forward and pass this on to then hopefully the good things that come next.
We got to go to break pretty shortly, but what do the performers do at this point? How do they protect themselves, and not just at the top levels,
right,
but all the way down to the indies? How do they protect themselves from having things like this happen to them at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Because, Lord only knows. I mean, the casting couch has been around forever in the entertainment industry. And, this is an entertainment industry. How do you make sure that people don't have to go through this again in professional wrestling, no matter where they are?
I think a lot of it you've already seen happen. I mean, when Speaking Out happened a few years ago, it was because people were calling out, hey, this thing that felt really inappropriate happened. Was this in fact inappropriate? And people are going, yes, that was inappropriate. And that there started to be those support mechanisms of, this kind of behavior was always inappropriate, but now it's not tolerated. And that's where there needs to be that community of support at all levels. And some of that also comes with, foreknowledge and forewarning, and maybe a little bit of element of just open conversation about appropriate and inappropriate behavior. And sometimes that means hearing, well, these bad things happen. We don't want the bad things to happen again. We need to learn from them so we don't do them again. But here's what you do to move forward. Now, certainly at the level of independent wrestling, there's not an HR department. There's not counselors at the ready. There's not.
So how do you protect people at that level? That's my question. If and look, I'm not there. I'm not in that circle. But if let's say X promoter tells X performer, you're going to do this or you're not going to work for me, and then that person refuses, and then they call their buddy X promoter 100 miles away and says, don't hire this person, and then they call their other promoter friend 250 miles away, don't hire this person, gets around, and all of a sudden that person gets blackballed.
Well, and that's the fun thing of it, because independent wrestling isn't also that as connected as that, not to that same degree, because then that means a little bit of outing of that person. And can that person trust that promoter Y and Z are not going to out their business too, when they're like, don't put this person into something. And so one, I hope as a community, we support each other. Two, that we ask questions. Well, why are you telling me this if that's the case? And I know, not that I knew at the time what was happening, but I found out later that this person tried to do that with people. And the other promoters were like, no, we don't buy this from you for a second. What is really going on? And began to ask questions. And that's how it became unveiled. Like, oh, you did some really inappropriate stuff and you abused your power, and also abused your power to promise things to people. So now you want to abuse your power now that the person has scorned you, to be like, I'm not interested anymore. Like, nope, that's not how this is going to work, buddy. So some of that also comes when it comes to the level of accountability to support each other, when then you have to call people out for inappropriate action. And I want to be very clear, inappropriate actions. I work in education. I see people who, are trying relationships for the first time. And sometimes they don't know how to approach a relationship. And it's no different from a lot of the young people I know in wrestling. And just the simple ask of a question of, hey, are you interested in having a date? Are you interested in going out? That isn't, if the other person doesn't want it, just the simple ask of that question isn't a level of inappropriate. So I want to be very clear, like, was this level inappropriate? And then as a community, we can support each other when inappropriate actions have happened, to call it out and to move from that person and be able to move forward with each other.
Yeah, makes sense. Before I go to break, I do have a comment in the chat box, because if you don't know, Phil, it's been incredibly windy out here in Las Vegas. And someone says, I have upset the wrestling gods. Everyone wrestles with someone or something or someone. I can't wrestle with the wind this weekend. This is the best wrestling show anywhere, but don't make The Rock mad. So apparently I angered The Rock. This is all my fault.
I mean,
sorry.
I mean, The Rock is Maui. So I'm just saying, don't mess up with the wind god.
Whoops. My bad. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, I was dodging a tree on the ground and everything yesterday. It was fun. So, well, I complimented The Rock, so maybe I've appeased the gods today. Stick around, everybody. We've got a whole lot more here on the Mark Hoke Show with Phil Stamper as we take you around the world of professional wrestling. Some interesting things happening with the Intercontinental title. And did I foretell something? Maybe. Stick around. We'll be right back.
If you live in Clark County, you are at risk of developing non-smoking lung cancer. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that gets into homes and increases one's risk of lung cancer, and it exists here in Clark County. Radon is colorless and odorless, so the only way you know if your radon level is elevated in your home or office is by testing. To get your free test kit, visit our website with a new interactive map to find a pickup location nearest you at www.extension.unr.edu/radon. 21,000 people die of lung cancer each year, and Nevadans are at a higher risk. If an elevated level of radon is found, there are ways to reduce it and lower the risk of getting lung cancer. Get your free test kit today. Visit our website with a new interactive map to find a pickup location nearest you at www.extension.unr.edu/radon. Sponsored by the University of Nevada, Reno Extension's Radon Education Program, and aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
My son stopped talking to me. He didn't want to leave his room. I didn't feel like talking to anyone. I just wanted to be alone.
I was really worried about my daughter. She was angry all the time.
I felt so depressed.
I was really worried about my daughter.
I couldn't do anything right. I was always getting yelled at.
My son told me he wanted to hurt himself. I was so scared.
I was feeling hopeless. It was all too much.
We needed help.
We needed help.
We needed help. We needed help.
I needed help. I called the mobile crisis response team, and we met with them that same day. A crisis team came to my house and helped me talk to my parents about how I was feeling.
I called the mobile crisis response team. They met with us that day.
I talked to them about how I was feeling, and it really helped.
Sometimes understanding what children are experiencing can be difficult. The Nevada Children's Mobile Crisis Response Team provides mental health intervention and support. Learn more at nocrisis.com.
This message sponsored by the FBI Las Vegas Citizens Academy Alumni Association, a nonprofit organization separate and apart from the FBI in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association.
The FBI is engaged in a nationwide effort to build public awareness of hate crimes and encourage reporting to law enforcement. Hate crimes include crimes committed on the basis of the victim's perceived or actual race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. Hate crimes are not only an attack on the victim, they are meant to threaten and intimidate an entire community. If you believe you are a victim or a witness of a hate crime, we encourage you to report it to the FBI by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip at tips.fbi.gov. You may remain anonymous. Again, report suspected hate crimes by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip at tips.fbi.gov. The FBI works to protect all victims of crimes, regardless of their country of national origin or immigration status. The FBI encourages victims and witnesses of any hate-related incident to report it to law enforcement. This message sponsored by the FBI Las Vegas Division, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
1015 FM KDAWN.
This is the Mark Hoke Show.
The Mark Hoke Show.
Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And let's get back to it. The best in pro wrestling news and entertainment on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 1015 FM. It is the talk of Las Vegas. I am the aforementioned one, Mark Hoke. Thanks for being with us. And of course, being bailed out today by the president of wrestling, Phil Stamper. Trust in Phil is his X handle. Very happy to have him joining us. Of course, from Pro Wrestling Revolver and, pretty much all over the indie scene. Phil, what do you guys have going on for WrestleMania, by the way? Should be a big weekend for you guys, I would imagine.
Oh, it is. So Wrestling Revolver, I have to cheat a little bit because my brain is so focused on, we have an event before we get to Mania weekend. We have two events before we even get to Mania weekend for Wrestling Revolver. So we are on the 16th, we're in Iowa. On the 28th, we're in Ohio. And then on April 5th, yay, I found it in time. On Friday, April 5th, during Mania week, we're in Philadelphia, joining forces with House of Glory Wrestling. We've already announced a couple of matches, a couple of people who will be there, including Mustafa Ali versus Amazing Red.
Ooh,
will be in action. The Rascals will be there. Santana will be there. Sami Callihan, Alex Shelley. So it's lining up to be an amazing, spectacular event.
I'm going to have to clear the timeout and bring the team over that I'll be out there with and come over and see that and hang out with you.
Absolutely. It'd be great to see you in person.
Yeah.
On the correct coast.
I'm okay with that. I'm from out that way, so you can say that.
I know. On the right coast. There you go. On the right.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. I'm in Nevada, so I'm not like on the coast. I'm just kind of west.
But like I said, come this way for water. We have plenty of water for you.
Exactly. We'll bring a little East Coast blend, as the kids like to say. It's all good.
Fair. That's
fair. Yeah. So make sure you check all that out. The Pro Wrestling Revolver's got going on from all across the country. Yeah, we got it. Man, you guys got to do a card out here for Double or Nothing. That'd be so awesome.
I will say there's been some conversation, but definitely nothing finalized.
All right.
And I mean, we're very fortunate as a company to have a great connection to TNA, to AEW. So we have a lot of that talent that appears on our events. And so we have to make sure it is also financially viable.
Oh, of course.
Out there
yeah.
too.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there for you.
I appreciate it.
I will work cheap.
Good to know. Good to know. Yay. That's one.
I'll work cheap. Oh, man. Well, of course, we've got more going on, getting ready for WrestleMania. coming up here in it's just a month away. That's so crazy. But I was intrigued by some of this little hype that's coming up with, we have maybe a 4-way coming up for the Intercontinental title, which could be some quality entertainment, as Dominic Mysterio, Sami Zayn, and Chad Gable getting out in the forest, man. He's looking like he's ready to go. And it was kind of funny because last year at WrestleMania, I got a chance to interview Chad and Otis. And I had actually said, even before that whole first round went, Chad, it'd be pretty cool to see you taking on some of these bigger guys and maybe go after Gunther for that Intercontinental title. And he agreed, thought it'd be kind of neat. And of course, he ends up in a feud with Gunther. And now he's coming back around, going all Rocky style. And I'll tell you what, I would love to see him be the guy. I'm down with it. Sammy's already won the Intercontinental title. So I want Chad Gable to take out Gunther at WrestleMania. Dominic, no. God, no. That would be I mean, it would probably make Philadelphia explode if he did. Yeah. But I would be so down with Chad Gable winning the Intercontinental title if this ends up being the match. What do you think?
Then at the same time, Gunther versus Dominic interests me from the fact that there would be a hole in Dominic's chest.
Yes.
I mean, hey, at the same time, if I have to give some credit, one of the most improved stars in the last year has been Dominic Mysterio. A year ago, I was just like, Dominic. But now you're seeing this quality level of improvement that he is starting to showcase. And I'm very appreciative, because that means work. He's put in some hard work to do that. In a weird way, Sami Zayn has been having a story of his own that he's been telling for a year and a half as well.
Yeah.
And so a year ago, because remember, maybe not to the same level as with The Rock, but there was a lot of people upset that now Cody Rhodes was coming in to take a spot from Sami Zayn.
Good point.
And so is this the opportunity that Sami has to go, this is my story, this is where I'm supposed to be, and he is the one. And I think there's some credibility to that kind of story. And looking at his experience, he's faced all sizes of competitor. He's faced all different styles of competitor. He is somebody that could pull it off and do it well. Chad, I think, is the dark horse. I think Chad is an amazing athlete, an amazing talent. I think you can't deny his wrestling ability. So I wouldn't be upset with him, but I'm really looking at Sami Zayn.
It's an intriguing match if that's what they're going to book. And oh man, you make a good point. I still want Chad, but I think you could still see a pass off. And the next point I'm going to make could end up resulting in Sami down the road, because someone said to me, and I swear to God, I had him in my car and I almost wanted to punch him. They said Damian Priest is going to walk out of WrestleMania with the Universal Championship. And I swear I just was like, you got to be kidding me. It made my head spin for a second. It's not going to happen. But then I thought, oh, dear Lord, if they did that, Philadelphia would riot. But I have a feeling Damian Priest may be walking out with a world championship. Would that surprise me? No. I mean, I could see Priest stealing that title away from Drew McIntyre after he beats Seth Rollins. Or if Seth survives, Damian wins the title. And, then down the road, maybe at SummerSlam, Sami finally gets a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe Money in the Bank. They're going back up to Canada. And that's a possibility. So, some intriguing stuff. But Seth's going to have a pretty heavy dance card at WrestleMania 2 coming up here.
Yeah. They're riding a very interesting line with Damian Priest. He's in the he's in the Judgment Day. He's a heel, but there seems to be some support too. So it's like, where are you riding with him? And so, like, I feel like they're in this pause moment of like, we have all this other stuff that's happening. is this where we pull the trigger? We have to pull the trigger soon because it's going to be Money in the Bank time pretty soon.
Yeah.
And so, all right, where are we gonna pull the trigger on Damian Priest and go, okay, here's where you have your moment. And then, like, I think if they do, though, he has to leave Judgment Day, or just double down, make him the worst son of a gun you've ever had in a wrestling ring, and make him be nasty about it, and just double down and make him be the most vicious, dominant leader of Judgment Day.
Yeah, this is going to be, you almost wonder if they pull something between now and then too,
and
have him cash in. But boy, if he lose, that would suck.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I agree. But you don't want him to lose.
No, I mean, but you could have. Oh boy, if he would lose, if he would take the belt off Seth before WrestleMania, dear Lord, how crazy would that get?
At the same time, there's been a lot of talk that Seth is hurt, that he's been working hurt. I think even said in a promo, he's been hurt for like a year, and so, it would make some sense too that he does it also to save the physical well-being of Seth Rollins.
Yeah, because this is I mean, you're talking about a guy, I mean, meniscus is something you can come back from. Of course, his back's hurting too.
Yeah.
If he lost the title before WrestleMania, he works a tag match so you can protect him a little bit, but then he doesn't end up working on night 2, so he doesn't have to go back-to-back nights. That kind of makes sense, I guess. I suppose. Yeah.
You know what? Or do something totally unexpected. Have him cash in and become the new tag champions.
Huh. There you go.
Bring Rhea with him, and Rhea and Damian Priest become the new WWE tag champions.
Oh dear God, are you serial right now?
Why not?
Phil Stamper, I think you just jumped the shark on that one. Oh,
I mean, okay, him and Finn Balor, him and Dominic.
Already, what are you trying? I don't know what you're trying to do, Phil, but we are losing our minds. But yeah, this is gonna get very interesting over the next couple of weeks as we get ready for WrestleMania season. Another intriguing name that just popped up over, with some free agency is Tama Tonga is apparently going to be heading into WWE. Of course, the son of the legend Haku, and he is apparently headed in, and technically a bloodliner. And they apparently WWE is talking about putting him in there too. Phil, is there a concern that the bloodline could just get out of hand because Jacob Fautu's flying around? You've got Umaga's son running around here. I don't know what's going on with him. You probably know better than I would on that. But could this bloodline situation get a little bit crazy with, and another name too is Naomi that I've been bringing up. I mean, she just got, unfortunately, double jobbed out after being knocked out of the Elimination Chamber first, and then just getting, because of a segment cut, apparently losing in one segment to Tiffany Stratton after she was just the TNA Women's Champion. Something's got to be up with her. I don't know what's going to happen with the bloodline after WrestleMania, but there could be a whole new little troop flying around. But could it be too much?
I mean, the Anoa'i family is a legacy family in the world of wrestling, and the impact that they have on the world of wrestling can't be denied. I mean, the Head Shrinkers for a long time were the longest rating tag team champions. There's such an amazing legacy that they've had. And so, like, now that the fact that the kids of the kids of the kids are having kids,
yeah,
I mean, it only makes sense. It's going to get bigger. And you're right. You can pack everybody and keep all of them in bloodline. Maybe it's time you almost not splinter. I'm not calling like an NWO red and NWO black, but
and that's what I'm worried about.
Right. But I have to tangent because you mentioned Haku, and I don't know if you've seen this video that's gone out from Dark Side of the Rings.
I did.
Episode of showing Haku the Shockmaster debut because he had never seen it before. For half a second, I thought you were guzzling down Pepto-Bismol. I was like, "Oh my God,
No.
are you that sick?"
No, it's a prime bottle.
Oh, so just as bad. So,
Oh, it's actually water in there, but that's okay.
Fair. But watching this is just, you don't normally think of Haku as and joy in the same sentence, but the laughter he gives you is so
It's a great video. Great
Never
video.
seen the Shockmaster video before.
Yeah, and by the way, if you haven't seen the Shockmaster video out there, it's one of the great bungles of all time in professional wrestling. Oh, poor Tugboat. But it was supposed to be this massive reveal of a new tag team partner for, it was Sting Luger, and I forgot who else was Sid Vicious, right?
I think so.
If I remember right, this in a massive tag match, and they were bringing out the Shockmaster, and it was a painted helmet of a stormtrooper, and he bursts through the wall and falls down flat, and the mask falls off, and it was just a major disaster. So if you've never seen the Shockmaster video, one of the worst things that ever happened in pro wrestling in a funny way, but it was bad. But yeah, so yeah, I'm just wondering the bloodline. They, once again, got to be a little careful. Can't get carried away with this, but yeah. So not excited about that at all, huh? No, Phil Stamper. No, nothing. He got nothing. He's got nothing. Let's go to break. All right, stick around, and we wrap the show up. There's another little lawsuit out there that I want to make sure to recommend, because this is kind of on the business side of the industry.
To recommend?
And we've also got say goodbye to two legends that passed away this week. So stick around, everybody. We'll be right back on the Mark Hoke Show. Best in pro wrestling news and entertainment on 101.5 FM.
Your tax refund belongs to you, not an identity thief. Over $6 billion in tax refunds were flagged by the IRS for possible identity theft in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Our U.S.-based restoration specialists are experts dedicated to helping solve your identity theft issues, and all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package. So we'll reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. Don't let someone else enjoy your refund. Save up to 25% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
You're pregnant, and no matter what you do, no matter what you try, you can't stop using alcohol, drugs, or tobacco. But no matter how lost you are, how far along you are, it's not too late. There's always hope. And there are many safe places that can help you stop using. In Nevada, pregnant women are given the highest priority for substance use treatment. Low-cost treatment options may be available so you and your baby can get healthy now. If you or someone you love is pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant and using alcohol, drugs, or tobacco, visit SoberMomsHealthyBabies.org or call 211 to find help today. SoberMomsHealthyBabies.org also has resources for healthcare providers, friends, and family. If you want to help someone who's pregnant and using, visit SoberMomsHealthyBabies.org or call 211 today. Sponsored by the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health and in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
Understanding the many things in a mother's life affecting her pregnancy is important. You can help improve the health of all mothers and babies in Nevada by completing a Pregnancy Risk Assessment Monitoring System survey about your recent pregnancy. Also known as PRAMS, the survey is from the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The survey asks new moms about their experience before, during, and after pregnancy. Responses are confidential and used to help improve the health of mothers and babies in Nevada. If you receive a PRAMS survey, please share your story. Learn more at nvprams.dpbh.nv.gov. That's nvprams.dpbh.nv.gov. dpbh.nv.gov. This message, sponsored by the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
Ready for your next vacation? Not so fast. Before you hit the road, remember these healthy habits to keep yourself and others safe and sanitary. Wash your hands after using the restroom, before eating and after blowing your nose. Sanitize airplane seats and tray tables. Sneeze or cough into a tissue or your elbow. And avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Lastly, make sure you're up to date on all your routine vaccines, including the COVID-19 vaccine. It's also important to get tested when necessary, such as if you develop COVID-19 symptoms before, during, or after travel. If you will be traveling to visit someone who is at a higher risk of getting very sick from COVID-19, or if you're in a situation with a greater risk of exposure during travel. Pack these tips on your next adventure. And remember, travel safely, Nevadans. This message is sponsored by a CDC grant through the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
1015 FM KDAWN. You're listening to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Vegas, The Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Now, here again is Mark Hoke.
And we are back for the final segment of the Mark Hoke Show this week. Very happy to have you along for the ride on 1015 FM, the Talk of Las Vegas. And, of course, I'm Mark Hoke. Thanks for joining us. Phil Stamper joining me and saving my butt this week. Trust in Phil on X. Certainly do appreciate you, Phil. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being my co-pilot today. It looks
Hopefully
like
I haven't steered you in too far of a direction.
No, this has been fun. I mean, it's great. You know, it's amazing. You know, when you're doing radio or shows like this, and you think you're going to go and run one direction, and then you go in some different places. But that's part of the cool part of doing stuff like this. You know, you just never know where things are going to go, and it's always a blast. So, thank you for some entertaining topics of discussion today, sir.
I'm glad I could help.
Yeah. Well, this one is interesting because as someone who, does a lot of work behind the scenes in pro wrestling, I saw this story and it intrigued me because I didn't know this was going on. But WWE has taken legal action against the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, to stop an agreement between the company and the city of San Antonio from being released. Because apparently, Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics, who, we see his work all the time, was trying to get records from the city of San Antonio in relation to the 2023 Royal Rumble that emanated from the Alamo Dome. He was trying to find out, how the bidding process worked and, get all that information. And WWE said, we don't want anybody to know how we're doing our bidding process and all that kind of stuff. So they're fighting tooth and nail to not let that out, saying it's a trade secret. No way we want that getting out. What do you think of that, Phil? I mean, is this cool and look, Brandon does great work. We all know this. I mean, WrestleNomics has kind of become a staple in pro wrestling, but is Brandon going a little too far in trying to pull this information and bust behind the scenes of WWE and how they're doing business like this?
I mean, Brandon is that numbers guy. He's that analytical brain. And if he's either A, he's curious, or B, he knows something. But to me, I'm not opposed to what was that process like? And even on the event logistics side, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm curious too a little bit. Is there some other information that he's trying to gain from this? And it's, on the political spectrum of things, I am very intrigued that their attorney general has gotten involved that he's just gotten involved in general like this, because he's also in some legal hot water as well himself as their attorney general. And so I'm just a little like, why is this the focus of his attention? What is it that doesn't want to be revealed? What is the trade secret? Is it that the WWE agreed, and I don't know if it would be this, but The WWE agreed to so much business in the city of San Antonio if San Antonio then invested some money in them. Is that part of it? And that they don't want that to be leaked that San Antonio gave them money? I'm not saying, this is me totally supposing. Is it something like that? And then that becomes a question of public funds and usage. Like, is that what's going on? When they say that there was a bidding process, was it because WWE was bidding on multiple locations? And how did San Antonio get to be the one? Or was it vice versa, that San Antonio was trying to entice them to come there? So I'm really curious the intent.
Yeah,
reveal.
Yeah, it's fascinating because there is a bidding process that goes on, and a lot of times there's tax breaks and all sorts of stuff that get thrown out there. And yeah, but boy, I'll tell you what, I mean, on WWE's side, I don't know if I'd want that information out there myself, but wow, it's fascinating, and I kind of see both sides of it. That it would be interesting to see how the sausage is made, but at the same time, from the business side, I would be like, I wouldn't want that out there. So interesting story there. I'm going to be interested to see where Brandon ends up on this. I'd love to talk to him about it at some point.
Bring him on.
Bring him on. Well, I tried. I'm gonna try again. I'll keep bugging him. But so good luck, Brandon. We'll see how that goes for you. And of course, this week we lost two very incredible characters in pro wrestling, and the first one, Ole Anderson, passed away at the age of 81. Of course, one of the original Four Horsemen, and of course started wrestling back in the late 60s and in the AWA, and of course one of the great performers in Crockett Promotions and down in Georgia before the guys put the Four Horsemen together, and off he went. And boy, Tanker's character, as everyone liked to call him, but one of the great wrestling minds in pro wrestling. And saying goodbye to Ole Anderson. Phil, your thoughts on him?
I mean, I don't even know what more can be said. The legacy and impact that he had on so many of the talents that we know, the influence on Rick and Arn, just an amazing personality. But what a wonderful life, and to have lived to 81, to do all the things that he did. I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, and so many incredible people he worked with. Well, can you imagine? He was in a championship tag team with Stan Hansen. Imagine working against those guys. Ow. Right. God, you better have your health insurance paid up on that night. My God. Yeah. And then, of course, we also lost Mike Jones, known as Virgil. Mm-hmm. And in WWE, of course, he was the muscle for the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And then when he went to WWE, became Vincent. I wonder why those two names came up. If you don't know, of course, Virgil was Dusty Rhodes' real name. And then, of course, Vincent, obviously against Vince McMahon. I wonder why that got changed. But, of course, quite a character. If you ever saw any interviews with him, he was, well, he would say just about anything, to say the least. But, of course, became a part of the NWO then when he was in WCW. But had a lot of health issues, strokes and dementia, and then unfortunately got cancer late in his life too, and a lot of that stuff caught up with him. But I believe we lost him at 72, if I remember correctly. So, but that guy was something else, man. He did what he was asked to do, and of course, when he finally turned on the $1 Million Man, it was a lot of cheers, man. It was guy was an interesting performer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was an exciting time in wrestling.
Yeah, it was. But still will never forget them knocking that basketball away from that little kid. It was a very, very sad day. But yeah, so saying goodbye to those guys. Phil, what do you got going on, my friend? Let everybody know.
So this coming weekend, I'm at MCW Pro Wrestling in Maryland and Joppa. It's our homestead. So MCWProWrestling.com. And then the following week is Wrestling Revolver returning to Iowa. And so we have a lot of big things planned for what's happening there. Both events, I think, are going to have almost about 1,000 people at them. So amazing independent wrestling action that you can see. MCWProWrestling.com and ProWrestlingRevolver.com.
And if they want to check out that independent calendar, so everybody can catch that.
I've opened up a Substack, so I'm learning that site. So it's wrestlereality.substack.com, or just follow me on my social media, and I'll be able to link to it and show you the graphics I make every week.
All right, sounds good. Phil, I thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to me. I'm going to owe you definitely a dinner out at WrestleMania weekend. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Feel better, because I think you've lost 15 pounds since we've been talking.
Well, I appreciate it. Great job today. Guys, thank you for joining us on the Mark Hoke Show. We do appreciate it. We will see you next week, as we got some great guests lined up. Colin Tessier and Doc Johnson are going to be joining us as we, come back from AEW Revolution and get ready for another week towards WrestleMania. Should be a good one. We'll see you next week on the Mark Hoke Show. Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, Facebook, The Mark Hoke Show, markhokeshow.com, and subscribe to us on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show. We'll catch you next time, Las Vegas. Have a good one.
Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show, and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join the Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.
You can admit it, you're obsessed with the news, but you don't want to be that person watching TV waiting for the next news story to break. So use your ears instead with the free Odyssey app. With this station available on the free Odyssey